Great. So thank you everyone for joining us today from wherever you are tuning in from. Today's session is called Building Human Capacity. And my name is Malia. I come from the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation. Today we're really talking about coaches. We know that coaches are a huge ingredient into really creating environments where kids can not just become better athletes, but really, more importantly, develop the social, emotional, and other life skills that they can take with them through life. So I'm joined today with three panelists who bring with them really great insights, expertise, and life experiences on what it really takes to recruit, train, and retain coaches. Nigel Harvey is the Executive Director of Cream Skills, Inc. in Wisconsin. Char is the sports office manager in the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department in Ohio. And then Todd is part of the Tennis for America program at the Junior Tennis Champion Center in Maryland. So we'd really like to start today by hearing a little bit more about what brought you each to coaching and working with kids through sports. So Ava, I think I'll turn it over to you first to share a little bit about that.
Sure. So again, my name is Ava Todd, and I am part of the first class of Tennis for America Fellows. Tennis for America is a new AmeriCorps program that was started by the Intercollegiate Tennis Association. And the goal of the program is to grow tennis, make it more accessible for everyone, and particularly to make it more accessible in underserved communities. And so we have 8 fellows spread out across the country who are all former college tennis players who have recently graduated from college and are now working at tennis centers to grow the capacity of the center and grow tennis in general.
Sure. So like she said, I'm Char Barnes. I work with the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department in Columbus, Ohio. So I was actually brought to youth sports. I was a rec kid, so I went from the library to the recreation pool to the recreation center every day for all my summers as a child. So it's kind of fitting that I found myself back here working for the same department that I enjoyed as a child. I had just moved back from Chicago and I needed a job, and I went up to my rec center to go visit my old center manager, and she's like, apply. And I applied, and I started working at Whetstone and started running soccer programming and teaching art classes, and just realized how important these community centers are to the kids in our community.
Yeah, again, my name is Nigel Harvey, Executive Director of Cream Skills, Inc. What brought me to youth sports, it was around like 2009 or whatever. I like to play in the park, play basketball with with the youth, the neighborhood youth. I'm the oldest guy out there, playing with the little guys. And so I noticed that the park started deteriorating. The culture was going in a negative direction. The rims were being ripped down. And so I decided to hold a little family community event for the neighborhood. And the main event was a basketball tournament. Okay. And this thing was just so successful. It brought out people in the neighborhood I've never seen before. And that kind of started me to, get more engaged with the neighborhood youth. And I found a true passion for neighborhood youth. I always loved basketball, but for this experience and to see the difference that it made with the neighborhood youth, the next day I come out to the park and they're like asking, when are you going to do it again? When are you going to do it again? So from that point on, I just continued to do little basketball tournaments for the youth in the neighborhood. And eventually I just went to school for it. And one of my classmates noticed my passion at a community center. And he pretty much asked me to fulfill his position because he was being promoted. And from that point on, I continued in the youth field work. And from there, I've grown a strong desire for youth work.
Great. And I think I would really like to look, turning more to the recruitment of coaches, right? I think we know that coaches can come from a lot of different backgrounds and sort of different roles. And there's a lot of work that goes into recruiting volunteer coaches or hired coaches in these programs. So Nigel, I'd love to hear a little more about, I know your program recruits a range of volunteers, everything from coaches to mentors. Could you talk a little more about the strategies you use to attract volunteers and what you really look for in like a really great mentor or coach when you're doing that?
Well, really, that is a very great question because that's not easy to find. I really like to look for people who I see a strong passion for youth work, similar to mine. We have former players who've aged out of my league, who I've recruited and became mentors, head coaches. So my main strategy is mainly focusing on the field of youth workers who already have the experience in youth work so that I don't have to really do much training on the basic understanding of youth work.
That's great. And I think that's a good segue, Ava. Nigel was talking a lot about how he draws from a pool of students and people he's worked with in the past programs that have aged out. Would love to, hear a little more about the AmeriCorps program that you're a part of and how it engages college athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think national service is a great avenue for recruiting coaches, particularly recruiting former college athletes. I know when I graduated, it was a difficult transition because I was losing a big part of my identity, which was being a college athlete. And you've done that for 4 years and your career comes to an end. And then at the same time that that's happening, you're trying to figure out what kind of career you want for your future. And I know myself and a lot of my peers were still a little bit lost in that area and trying to figure out what exactly it was that we wanted to do, and felt like we had to have it all figured out, but we didn't. And so through a year of service that also relates back to the sport that you love and that you've played yourself and that has given so much to you, I think it really gives college athletes an opportunity to pass forward something that they were given, to stay connected to a sport in a different way. So rather than being the player, you're now being the coach. And it also gives you an opportunity to be employed, which is great.
I know a lot of the work that you've done is really thinking about the process of recruiting coaches, so centralizing it to make it more accessible for coaches, and also thinking about the diversity of sports that the rec department is offering, sports and rec department is offering. So could you talk to us a little more about the work you're doing to centralize processes through the youth sports office, and then also provide a variety of like opportunities for coaches to participate in and how that helps in your recruitment?
Sure. So we used to do, every rec center used to run their own sports, which was really difficult, honestly, for probably the community, because there would be different rules, different uniforms, everything was different. And based on where you were in the city, your uniforms might look really nice, or you might just get a t-shirt. And just so we thought that just centralizing the office and centralizing that to the youth sports office was the best way to make sure that all kids in the city were getting the exact same experience, the same good quality of programming. And not to say that centers weren't doing a good job, but they were working with what they had, which is basically what Rec and Parks is. We work with what we've got. We do a really good job with not a lot. So by centralizing the office, we were able to make sure everybody was getting the exact same quality of programming, and we were able to do that by just drawing in on the knowledge and skills of the people that we've already got, which is great. We have a lot of dedicated employees that work in our department who are very passionate about youth sports, and so just getting their ideas, bouncing those ideas off of them, and just really working together as a team. And through centralizing that, it also gave our community one place to get all of the information they need for youth sports.
Nigel, you talked a lot about youth workers and that you look for folks with that background already. Would love your perspective on that, and maybe what are the types of training or supports you give to folks that maybe don't have a professional background in that space. But also would love to, I know you're a founding board member also of the Milwaukee Youth Sports Alliance, which is I believe you describe them as a Justice League of youth workers and sports organizations that work together to make sure that all kids have access to these high quality experiences. So, just how has this organization really helped bring this type of training to organizations across your city, to make sure that, people working with youth in lots of different organizations have access. So we'd just love to hear more about how you're doing that and really the impact that you've seen from that.
Well, thanks. I'm glad that you would like to hear that because a lot of people need to hear this. First and foremost, we emphasize the fact that you're a head coach slash mentor. We don't blur the lines in between mentors and head coaches. You're a head coach, that means you're a mentor. So that's the mindset that we push off to any volunteer, even if it's just a volunteer not coaching. You're working with youth, so you're a mentor. So that's the first thing we set in place. With MISA provides a great training experience for new coaches with years of experience, because we really, like I said, we focus on the sports based youth development, and we've been having a great session, a coaches clinic session. We've been doing it for years. Actually, this would have been our fourth year during our coaches clinic in the fall, and it's a great experiences for coach. It's a great experience for coaches. They get to learn different techniques, multiple techniques. I can't even really spill out how many things I've learned from this event, but I've attended every event since they started it, and it's a great opportunity for coaches to learn multiple techniques and also share strategies and communication techniques that some coaches are unaware of, because the mindset of most coaches is that they're just there to win. They're just there to win, go home. So with the MISA platform providing the sports-based youth development for coaches in the city, it's tremendous. It's tremendous, and it has a profound effect on the coaches because the coaches understand that they're more than just a coach. So they really get the experience of learning how to become a better youth worker slash mentor and have a stronger impact on the community.
I hear like a theme throughout a lot of these comments that you're making is really, it's like about the relationship, right? And it sounds like building that relationship is probably a huge component of, retaining coaches, retaining families, retaining kids in programs. And so, Char, I'd like to continue to kind of unpack like what you were just talking about, and how has like the systems you put in place, or just like providing these supports to coaches and families, really helped retain people in the system.
Well, it's always the saddest day when you see a 12-year-old go to 13 and you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose them because they're such a good leader on their team. So sometimes what we do is we just expand the age range. So we may not have offered something, and we have a lot of 12-year-olds that are like, well, we still want to play. It's like, well, looks like we're doing 13U now. You just kind of expand the age group if you need to. We also have try to reach out with those kids and have them help coach with current teams. We'll turn them into officials. So for soccer, a lot of our former soccer players end up being officials when they turn 14. Now they start with the little, the itty bitty kids, but it gives them a skill and they get paid. So it's also some of these kids' first jobs as well. The retention part, I think if we just continue to provide good programming, good quality programming, a space that is safe and a space that is fun, people will want to come back. We always make sure to keep our costs low, because we know not everybody can afford it. And if we continue to do that, I think our programs will continue to grow, which is always my hope, because that means that we're impacting the lives of more and more children who need that guidance and those programming to keep them busy and healthy and safe. So,
Eva, I think one perspective that you really bring is like the perspective of being a coach right now, and know that like the coach experience is also so important in addition to the youth experience, right? For that retention. So far, how do you think that this experience has really like shaped your perspective and how you might want to stay engaged, or even, on your future as you're thinking, after you're done with this program, what will you do? So would love to hear more about how this is shaping you as a person and kind of how you are thinking about, involved with your communities going forward.
Yeah, I think the program has already had a big impact on me and my perspective in terms of what I want to do for a career. I think coming in, I knew that I might want tennis to be a big part of my professional life, but I'm not sure that I had considered coaching specifically as a career for me. But now that I'm doing it and it's such a big part of my job, I think I'm developing the confidence that it could be something that I want to do long term. What's cool about the program too, and the opportunities that I've had at the Junior Tennis Champion Center is that we've been able to coach in pretty much every aspect of the sport. So I've coached kids as young as 3, but I've also gone up to 18 in all the different programs that they have. And so I might be able to find out, okay, I connect best with this subset, this age group, or this is an area where I really need to work on and kind of grow in those areas throughout my year in this program. So the diverse range of opportunities that I've been given within coaching, I think has been really helpful. And also we've gotten to work with a lot of coaches who have roles on the administrative side as well. So we work really closely with the director of tennis. And I think that's opened my eyes to areas of coaching that you don't always see, areas that are more behind the scenes, and that maybe that could be a career option as well of doing some more of the behind the scenes work and the scheduling and the things that have to happen to make the coaching happen.
That's really great. And I think you bring up one last really good topic for us to just maybe share some thoughts on is, who are the coaches I think are so important, and for kids to see different people being a coach, right? And I think that maybe not everyone views themselves as someone that could be a coach, right? So it might take a little bit of shifting of someone seeing themselves as, oh, I can do this. So Char, is this something that you see in your work, and is there any efforts in your work where kind of expanding who can be a coach? Is it a mom or a dad, or is it somebody who may not have been a college athlete but still can really connect well with young people? So how do you think about that, and what does that look like in your work?
Sure. So we get a lot of moms and dads, which is fantastic, because once again, we like to bring the family and community into our programs. We have so many parents who are like, okay, I'll do it, but I have no idea what I'm doing, and the beautiful thing is that we partner with some good organizations that actually give you curriculum. So you can't really go wrong. They give you step by step, day by day. So if you've got 4 and 5-year-olds playing soccer and you've never played a day in your life, but your child wants to play, we have trainings and curriculum with some of our partners, like through the U.S. Soccer Foundation. They have the Soccer for Success program. As a Black girl, I had, had I not had my first coach, my first major coach was a woman. And I think that's what made me comfortable. I was a swimmer, and seeing okay, here's this 22-year-old redheaded girl who is helping me learn how to swim. It was a big deal for me. And then, a lot of my coaches through all of my sports experiences have been women. And I think that made a big difference on how I view sports and women in femininity or whatever. It's just seeing someone there who can do something so well, and you're like, oh, well, if she can do it, so can I. And having Black female coaches, it's mind-blowing for me. It was oh, wow, look at her, because she looks like me. And, making sure that we, our coaches represent our community.
Nigel, and I would love to hear more, because from your perspective too, just you talked about how mentorship and that connection, a lot of the young people that you work with even view you as a father figure, right, is what you said. And so how does this play into the recruitment as well, and the connections that you build with your volunteers? How does this play into who you bring into your program to work with the young men in your program? So I'd love to hear about how you think about who are the coaches, and are they representative and can build those connections with the young people?
Okay, yeah. One thing I did fail to mention, that my league is co-ed.
Oh, co-ed.
We do have girls play in our league. It's probably one of the only leagues where it's co-ed. So we really like to make sure we stay diverse, and not just on the player side, on the coaches side as well. We do have high school coaches. We have coaches that are not involved in sports at all. They're just great leaders, and they're great listeners. So there are a few things that I look for in recruiting coaches. I look for that passion for youth work. You got to really have that drive to really want to see a change in a young person's life, and not so much that huge ego to want to win. The whole trophy case thing. I just want to get more trophies in my case. That's not what we're looking for. Even though we do encourage, our teams to win, our coaches to win, not for the aspect of gaining a plaque, but for the aspect of gaining the team building aspect of learning how to work together and completing a goal, for one common cause. So we're really into people who are into team leadership and into building character.
This has been so great. I feel like we've touched on so much, and I've really learned a lot about coaches and who can coach, how do you support coaches, and the really important role of coaches in the youth sports experience and really connecting with families. So thank you, Ava, Nigel, and Char, so much for sharing a little bit about your work and experiences and perspectives. I think it's been really really insightful and helpful. So thank you again.